Next on the to-do list then, I need to get a clutch pedal in there, which obviously mounts here, but all the fixings and stuff are up behind the dash. So I'm going to pull this dash out, which we were going to do anyway, tear that whole thing out, and then I'm also going to get rid of the shifter because we don't need the auto shifter anymore, and I'll tidy up some of the wiring and tear that out as well then, and then that's the inside of the car completely stripped out. So I'm going to crack on with that. Before we get into that though, drop us a comment on your thoughts and ideas on livery for the car. Obviously we're going to have to paint it at some point, and we need to figure out a livery that sort of matches the rest of the TSR stuff. And basically, best idea, drop it in the comments and we'll send you some free stuff. So I wanted to strip out the dash and get all this stuff out because we're not going to need it. And yeah, just cleared a lot of space actually, huge dashboard. Cleared that all out so we can repair it and weld it up and get some paint and stuff. And then we moved on to opening this hole that had been blocked off to drag the wiring into the car so we can get the wiring in a better place. So I've just opened that hole up. I can feed the wiring through nicely. We're going to mount all the wiring on the firewall just in front of the passenger. It's a great place for it. It'll keep it dry and out of the way. Clutch pedal now then, we bought this kit from Malwood or Underdash Hydraulics in the States, and it's like a bolting kit for the Mustang to give us a clutch pedal, sorry. So comes with a few bits. Got to figure out how to make them go over there. Yeah, so getting this pedal in was a bit fiddly. You're working right above the steering column. It's just a bit of a nightmare to get to. Managed to get it bolted in and it fitted all the factory points fairly easily. Alright, so I have got that bolted. Oh dear. Got that bolted in there, up there, which is a pain to do because you can't really get right up there. And under the dash. There we go, a bit of light on the situation. Only one minor issue is go, stop, clutch 50 foot higher. Throttle and the breaker together at a good height, but the clutch pedal's massively high to cut the brake pedal anyway because it's an auto brake pedal and longer. We've just got to figure out why the clutch pedal's quite so high. So pedal is in, as you've seen. Obviously sits in a stupid place, so what we're going to do, after much deliberation, is we decided we're just going to make it so that goes there in a sensible place and matches the other pedals. We're just going to cut the pedal, bend it to exactly where we want it, and then weld it back up rather than mess around any longer. So that's pretty easy going. The next bit we've got to do is plumb it. So we need one pipe to go to the reservoir, which we've got to mount in the engine bay behind it. And then this is a high pressure pipe that comes with the kit that we probably won't use because I imagine the fittings are completely wrong for the gearbox because it's not a Ford gearbox and it's not a Mustang gearbox. Alright, so mounting this clutch reservoir, that's the pipe for it, so that fills the cylinder. And there's no good place for it, but I'm thinking I've got this bracket here that's part of the bodywork. If I can put it on there like that, it would be mint. It's not wide enough to pick up off these, annoyingly, it's too wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill and tap some holes in this side and then bolt it through this into this. There you go, I've drilled and tapped some holes in that, and then I've got myself some bolts. So I'm literally going to drop that on there and bolt it in from the back. Pipe on. I'm looking at the shifter now, the gear shifter, which is down there, obviously. That is the stock BMW shifter. I've actually not got it hooked up correctly, but you can see down here where that Allen key, that there is the original shifting rod bolted in, so that sets the position of where that is. This would actually be below the transmission tunnel on the BMW, and then it comes through the gator, so this would be a lot lower if it was in a factory BMW, but I couldn't get it there because the tunnel's in the way on this, so I didn't want to mess around with that. But just sort of eyed it up and positioned it where it kind of would be. Obviously I know it would be a lot lower, to see if that'll work, and it won't. It's like miles away. So my arm's like fully stretched and it's all the way over there. The steering wheel's there in a good position and the brakes in a good position, but then that is like miles away. So realistically it wants to be here somewhere. So I need to basically move all of this, bring it backwards, maybe bring it to an angle and get it in between the steering wheel and the handbrake. Somewhere here would be awesome. Which means I've got to remake all of this, I think, or at least probably start by extending this shifter rod. I can mount it all outside of the tunnel, and it doesn't need to be like the BMW where it goes under the tunnel, which kind of will suit because it'll help me lift this up and get it closer to my hand in a natural position. But basically I think I'm going to start by lengthening that rod, getting it closer to me, get the position right, and then I can see about mounting this and getting it in a good place. So I'm going to cut this shifter rod about there somewhere, and then I'm going to weld 2 nuts to either side, and then I can use that threaded rod there to set the distance I want, so I can make it adjustable and then lock it off with the other 2 nuts, and I can position where I want it. There we go. So just welded those outer nuts to this, and then this threaded bar turns and will adjust the length. So I'm going to start at that and then see if I want it longer or shorter. I've made the rod up and then just quickly reassembled it there like that, and then now you can see it's brought the shifter back more in line with the handbrake and the steering wheel, and my arm has got a little bit of a bend in it and it's in a good place. We could possibly lengthen it if we wanted to, but that's a more acceptable position for a gear shifter. So I've just got to basically mount that there, the 2 bits at the front, and then that sort of rod just under my wrist are the mounts. So I'm going to try and mount that. I'll probably mount it crudely to begin with, just to test the theory, make sure it actually selects all the gears and that I'm happy with it, and then I'll look at making up some proper mounts for it when I know it actually works, because I don't want to spend a load of time and then find out it doesn't actually work. Testing out the shifter and the theory for it, and that it's working. So I've got it mounted here, as you can see. So let's take a look. I've just knocked up some cheap and nasty flat steel on either side, bolted it to there. I've chucked a bolt in there because there was already a bolt hole, and then I've clamped it to the tunnel on that side, and then I've just drilled some box section for the rear, and that's just sitting there. There's nothing holding that at the minute. But in terms of position, oh, look at that. In terms of position, that's in a good spot, so my hand will naturally go from there to there. I'm not going to go right down low, it's not miles away, it's in a good spot, so happy with that. Hydraulic handbrakes there, so that's a good position. I've just now got to make this set up properly, and it's going to have to be pretty strong as well, because there's a good amount of force, and even just off of this I can see like the transmission tunnel flexing. So I'm going to do something big and something strong that's going to keep that in place when you're ragging around on it. So while I'll get on with that, Harry's going to jump back on the clutch pedal and getting that modified so that the pedal sits in the right place, and getting the brake and the clutch pedal so that they both sit together nicely. Harry's welding things. Okay, so clutch pedal's now all fitted, and then all we need to do is I'll pass the lines through the firewall there, plumb the rubber hose, the intake into the reservoir there, and then there's a braided hose out of the clutch pedal. Got a little adapter piece here, and that's going to thread into the braided hose there, and then the other end will thread into the gearbox down there. So you're just going to plumb that in, and then that should be the car driving and ready to go, so we should be able to get it outside and test it. Just going to do this, and then I'll put some fluid in, bleed all that through, and we'll go from there. This is the finished off shifter then, made a bracket for the front, as you can see, and then welded that in there and double skinned it on the tunnel to make it thicker. And then that box section that I used worked really well, so we stuck with that, and now that's in there nice and strong. That's all adjusted to the length we want. Gear stick comes out in a good position, and yeah, we just got to build a tunnel over the top. Mocking up some triple R laser lamps, Sentinel lights. I wanted to put some in there, obviously you've seen a bit. So what I did was, so this is an Elite 6, which is another light, the same as what we've got on 646 in the States, just a bit bigger. We've got the 18-inch one. But basically I 3D printed the lights so that we could use them for mocking up and stuff, rather than using a brand new light for mounting and stuff. We can play with these and move them around and stuff like that. And I didn't know if this idea was going to work. So obviously on the standard Mustang, it's got those two lights there in the middle, as well as the main headlight ones here. And I just wanted to try these Sentinel lights. They're 7-inch light, they're really, really cool. So I 3D printed up a couple of them and then got them mounted in there, just largely so I can see how they look. And I'm really pleased with them. So we'll get ourselves a pair of those, because they are crazy good lights, like super, super good lights. So yesterday when we were doing bits on the clutch, we had a minor mishap, and because the clutch master cylinder, this new pedal that we're using, isn't matched to this slave cylinder, i.e. the BMW clutch, when we pressed it down it popped the piston out of the slave cylinder, which pushes the push rod in the engine, in the bellows-in out, and then it dumped all of its fluid, clutch fluid, on the floor. So you can see there's a clutch slave cylinder with nothing in it. It's supposed to have a push rod sticking out which pushes the clutch fork, but that's stuck in the bellows. And so what we've got to do is take the gearbox back off, pull the push rod out, put it all back together again, and then put the gearbox back on. And yeah, a bit of a pain, but we'll get it done. We've just unbolted the gearbox and slid it back off of there. So Harry's just going to use the endoscope, see if we can see what we can see. I think we're going to need to move it back further actually, mate. Yeah. Because we're not even off the ring gear yet. Now I'm on with some bodywork, my favourite job. So there were a couple of bits of rust left on the car on this rear wheel arch. One small patch at the front, and then the rear quarter was not in great shape. So it's just a case of cutting it all out, cut out all the rust, grind it all back and make it nice, and then make up steelwork to go back in, get that all welded in, grind back, paint it up. Trying to keep as little heat in the steel as possible so I don't warp it or melt through, because obviously it's quite thin steel. And there you go, welded in, and now I'm just grinding it back. So there's the front part of the arch done, and now on to the rear. So I cut out the rear section that was obviously rusty, and then found a bit more rust behind that. So I had to weld in some extra sections, which was no big deal. I did exactly the same as what I did on the front, cut it all out, tacked in some fresh steel, then welded it up. I then found a bit more rust on the rear quarter on the driver's side. It wasn't as bad as the passenger side, so it was just a case of welding in a couple of patches, putting some fresh steel in. Now we're on with cleaning out the inside of the car and getting all the old paint and soundproofing stuff off. So we're using a needle gun here to strip it all back to the steel, and then we can clean it all up and wire brush it all up, ready for painting. Quite a time consuming job, just taking all the old paint off and all the underseal and stuff. We stripped all that off, got it back to the steel work, and it means that we can wire brush it all up and get some buzz weld on it. It's rust proof then for the future. Okay, just a quick look at the battery box that I've made. So it's all TIG welded aluminium. It's got a base plate and then this bit that goes on top, and just some 8mm threaded bar and some nuts on top to secure it. I'm going to use 4 8mm bolts to screw that into the boot. So we've got the battery mounted now, 3D printed these little bits for the terminals. So we're going to have the battery leads coming onto there. We've got the fuel tank mounted now, so these are 3D printed mounts. They bolt through the floor, and then we've got pieces to go on top that are still printing, but it's taking forever. And then we have some 3D printed mounts back there for the fuel pump. For 3D printed parts, it's pretty good. That fuel tank's not going anywhere. Like I say, we've got some caps that will go on top, and then we'll bolt down through it, and then we'll probably run straps around it to the floor anyway. All of that's in. Touched up some of the paint work on the inside, and then done some of the floor and some of the underside as well, just to keep that protected. This lower corner here that was all rusted out, and the inside of the arch here and the inside of the arch here have all been welded now. You can probably still see that they're not straight. There's a lot of dents, there's a lot of low spots, and then we still need to clean up this edge, the weld line and stuff, but it's now one solid piece and we've got all the rust out. For now it's going to be okay, but obviously we'll look at pulling the dents properly and hammering it out. I think we're just waiting on some tools. We've ordered some proper dies and stuff to try and knock some of these dents out. And then at the moment, if we have a look inside, I'm just working on tidying up the electrics. A lot of this is the harness for the M57 engine. We don't actually have anything left from the Mustang side. I've got a plate in here now to mount the ECU under the dash. There's a main relay and a small fuse box there for the M57 that needs mounting as well, which I'm just working on. We've got some rough wiring set up just so we could start it, so that's an ignition and a light to the fuel pump and stuff. But we're going to get rid of that, and then we found this on eBay. So it is essentially the Chinese equivalent of a Switch Pro, and it cost us about £100 compared to £300-400 that a genuine Switch Pro costs. But this kit has everything in it. We've got all the power cables already made up. It comes with cable ties to secure it. We've got a resettable circuit breaker there to run the main power into it, and then this is the control module for it. Basically got a bunch of connections on both sides. All of them are fused as well, so there's fuses all inside there. This is the switch panel itself, so we've got a 12 gang switch panel, and then it comes with a pretty good instruction manual of how to install it, and then a load of stickers so we can choose what we want to have each of these buttons go to. I'm gonna use that basically as the main switch panel for the car, so we'll have the ignition, start, fuel pump, and then eventually when we get round to it we'll have the lights. In here's almost finished. I've got to build another mount for that and then put the Switch Pro in and just do a bit of wiring. All the boot's done now, all the welding's done that needed doing, but it's almost at the stage where we can take it for a drive, I think, take it for a test drive. So this is most of the wiring now finished. So this is the control box for the switch panel. We've got a resettable fuse here, and then this is the existing M57 and the ECU here. So most of that's in. The only thing we've got to do is wiring the fans, and then all of the car is basically controlled off of this little switch panel here. So it's a one wire panel that we'll have mounted up on the dash up here somewhere. And then it comes with a bunch of stickers so that you can label the buttons. So we've just got fan, fuel, this is our ignition and our stop, and then this is the power to the starter motor to actually start it. It will connect to an app as well, so we can change a bunch of settings with the lighting as well, and whether you want the buttons for strobe for lighting, whether you want latching switches or momentary switches. But yeah, for now, that's all done. Just start the car then, Harry. I took to a bit of panel beating, something I've not done before, but I thought I'd give it a go. So even though we welded in some fresh steel, there was still, the original steel was quite badly dented. Straighten it out just a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but the straighter I can get it, the less we have to do when it comes to bodywork. We're poking around again and took the rear windscreen out and found that where the windscreen seal sits in each corner had got rust. Again, we had to cut it all out, make up some steel to go back in, interesting shapes obviously, then get it all welded back in. So again, there's no rust anywhere, and it means that we could take the opportunity to paint it up properly with some buzz weld, then it's not going to rot out again in the future. Again, questioning my life decisions, and yet again underneath the dashboard on this Mustang, trying to weld a patch in the floor that was missing, that we didn't realise was missing, that we just thought somebody did a shit job of repairing the floor, but they completely missed the whole panel. What, try? We needed to add some fans to the rad pack. So this is the standard BMW rad pack, which normally would have a viscous fan that goes on the engine. But we obviously don't have the space for that, so we needed some electric fans in there. So I just took this opportunity to get the radiator out, make up a fan holder out of aluminium, and then TIG weld some bosses to the original rad to mount that all in. It came out quite nice, and we've got 2 high flow fans fitted. Giving the windscreen a clean and getting off all that grime from the past 5 years or so, and get this car out of the workshop and give it a little test run. So we managed to get the Mustang running and out of the workshop. We got this far from there and it kept cutting out and we couldn't figure out why. So it was only doing it when we were lifting the clutch up. And I don't know whether you can see, but down here, the alternator is touching the body of the car. So when we were lifting the clutch, the torque was twisting the engine slightly, and then it's making contact with the inner wing down there, and then causing a short and making the car cut out. So we're just gonna basically knock the body panel back just for a little bit of clearance, and then that'll allow us to drive it back into the workshop, because at the minute it's in the middle of the yard. And then we'll probably look at cutting it out and then putting another piece in, but with the correct sort of clearance for that. But apart from that, it runs fine. The clutch works, the brakes work, all the wiring for the fuel pump and the fans and all that all works fine. And yeah, for first sort of drive in how many years? 5? Yeah.
No, I haven't driven it, so it'd be more than that.
So
that's a lie. I did drive it about 3 feet and then crashed it into the 101 I had because I didn't have any brakes.
But yeah, so we're just going to do that and then hopefully get it back into the workshop. But yeah, it looks pretty cool.